to change that condition, that needs to go back to the developer, the property owner, to determine whether they want to do that.
Yeah, I think, you know, I'm going to steal Rich's term
Please.
from the Pam Health discussion. You would just deny the waiver request, and then it's incumbent on the developer to decide either build or pay the fee in lieu.
All right, well then, in terms of this, does anybody want to make a motion to change that condition on the plan, help me out here.
The waiver.
Thank you.
Would it be as easy as just not including 8?
You could do that.
Well,
But we want to call out the fee in lieu.
they requested, I think we have to
Yeah,
formally respond to it. Yeah. So it's just the change of number 8 on the recommended motion, if we're all comfortable with the motion.
Right, change
That change,
Yes.
if we have a consensus
To be
with
in-
that, then
Eric? Are you comfortable with that?
I am, makes me feel a little better about approving a sidewalk waiver.
you didn't. You haven't yet.
Okay, well, we have consensus to make that change. So, do we need to give you the language for that? Do you
No,
wanna-
I got it.
Okay, great.
Madam Chair, I recommend council move to approve the Oak Hall Equestrian Facility Preliminary Final Land Development Plan dated June 22nd, 2026, and last revised July 13th, 2026, subject to the following conditions. 1, within 90 days from the date of approval by council, all conditions must be satisfied. Final signatures must be obtained, and the plan must be recorded with the Center County Recorder of Deeds Office. Failure to meet the 90-day recordation time requirement will render the plan null and void. 2, pay all outstanding review fees. 3, address to the satisfaction of the township engineer any outstanding plan review comments. 4, fully comply with College Township Code Section 180-12. 5, post surety as approved by the township engineer prior to recording. 6, record approved declaration of stormwater access and maintenance easement prior to recording. 7, provide evidence of erosion and sediment control consistency from Center County Conservation District. 8, council denies the sidewalk waiver request as recommended by staff. 9, all conditions must be accepted in writing within 7 days from the date of the conditional approval letter from the township engineer.
Second.
All right, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. The land development plan is approved as noted.
As a follow-up to that then, but the client has the option to take the fee in lieu though, then, is that correct?
Yeah, we can work with you. We'll get in touch and go from there.
Okay, next item up is P2, the Park Home Furniture Preliminary Final Land Development Plan.
That's
Lindsay?
me. I have another brief presentation. This is the Park Home Furniture at Shiloh Road Preliminary Final Land Development Plan. Council saw this as a sketch a few months back. This is part of the Shiloh Commercial Park subdivision. This is Lot 3. It's approximately 3.6 acres. The zoning district is commercial, and the proposal is to develop a 40,000 square foot building on Lot 6 Lot 6, not 3, in the Shiloh Commercial Park. Next slide, please. This is an overview of the site. Because of the subdivision plan, all sidewalks are being proposed here as required, as well as even a little extra stub that would go over to eventually connect to Premier Drive, those properties over there. Next slide, please. And then this is the record plan. One request here for council that the Planning Commission did discuss, if you could go to the next slide, please, is or the next one, a parking reduction. Currently, the space requires 82 parking spaces. They are making a request to reduce those to 72 spaces. 76 spaces. That would be 72 standard spaces with 4 ADA. Because of our ordinance regulations, stormwater calculations for impervious have been accommodated for the whole 82 spaces, and the parking request is less than 10%. In our ordinance, really, it's permitted by our ordinance, but the planning commission still recommended that you could allow to minimize the parking. The form or the letter that came along with this did show their how each development in, I think, Johnstown and Altoona, their stores, and the parking that's required there and what they actually use. So that was a good overview of why they're requesting it and why it makes sense to them. So because we're doing the form-based code, we are trying to minimize parking overall. So staff is okay with the request to minimize parking in this area. And please note that if it is required in the future, the area has been set aside for those parking spaces. That's all I have, Mark.
Yeah, if you want to just go to the plan there very briefly. Yeah, we were in before with the sketch plan for the site. And I said Park Home Furnishings is proposing 40,000 square foot store. And whenever we were working on the sketch plan originally with staff, we met with them. And originally we had all the parking in the front. We had 3 rows of parking in the front. And then working with staff and trying to at least understand or go and work with the form-based code, even though it doesn't apply here. We were able to shift one of the bays in the back. That actually our client liked that because it is pushing the building out towards the front of the street closer. So they were actually happy that worked out real well. You do have, I think, in the front, about 59 parking spaces here in the front, and then the rest of them, it's like 17 in the back. That area. We have truck access. We had submitted to the township staff basically for large semis to come in, turn around, and then back in and back out. But this store, it's a showroom store. It's not where they're going to be doing deliveries. They have one big warehouse. That's where they deliver stuff from. But they need to bring furniture here for the displays and that. So sometimes the smaller trucks, sometimes it is the large tractor trailer trucks on there. But the layout, like you said, the sidewalk along here. We also had the sidewalk into the site, and then we put a stub down here to ultimately, if there's a future connection with the theater site, that could occur there. That was on the original Shiloh commercial plan, like going back with the different development, the different subdivisions, stages that we worked on, and that's being proposed in this set. The stormwater is all with the original basin that's being proposed. The utilities are all coming from East Trout Road, that the Phase 2 final subdivision plan that you approved on that last month, and they'll be run up and then come off of there. Most along the side of the building. The electric is actually going to be coming from an existing pool here back to transformer areas there. There's the refuse area in the back that's kind of hidden away also, but easy access for the refuse trucks to come in, turn around, and back out on there. So in general, that's an overview of the site. On the waiver that we talked about, yeah, we did submit information on the 2 stores, one in Altoona, one in Johnstown, and one is 60,000 square feet. It only has about, I think, 40 or so spaces, but it's also like in a shopping center. There's spaces beyond that, and then there is a 40,000 square foot one in Duncansville that has 60 spaces on its site, and so. And even that one, the client says they really don't even need that many, but that's kind of where they would be happy with on there, somewhere around that much. So we looked at it, and for the layout and what we were looking at, we ended up though keeping some more in the back. because assuming that the employee's going to be here in the back, more spacing for them and for customer pickup here. And we have reserved for future spaces in the back there. That's where, with the waiver we're requesting, does not be installed now. So if you have any questions other than that, that's a brief summary of it.
All right, so the action is approval of the preliminary final land development plan. Tracy, do you have any questions for Mark?
No, not at this time.
Rich?
Just, Mark, was this impacted at all? There were some modifications done for the regional stormwater stuff?
Yeah, that would have to occur before this gets built, yeah.
Right, but this,
Yeah.
it does have a factor into this, but
Yes.
it's being taken care of through
Yeah,
that.
this can't get built until that.
That's in Benner Township, and that
Yes.
went through the county and everything,
So
but,
that's,
yeah. And I have no objection to the parking reduction,
Yeah.
especially for this use.
yeah.
Yeah. It's not a high-traffic use.
Eric?
Yeah, what Rich said, I think it's actually kind of refreshing to see the shift, philosophical shift with developers to not overbuild
Yeah.
parking for Black Friday
Yeah.
year-round, you know. I appreciate that,
Yeah.
and I have absolutely no problem with that. In fact, I'd have no problem with, you know, building even less parking.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
you've accounted for it
Yeah.
in impervious, right?
Yeah.
If you have to add them later,
Yeah.
you're still under impervious.
Yeah.
I mean,
Well, like, in the front area, like, every now and then they have tent cells in the front, that's why they needed the big area there. Or if not, we would have taken some out of the front, but they need it they have tent cells a couple times a year.
yeah. I also appreciate the deliberate process that you used with
Yeah.
this. You know, we've seen it a couple of times. You actually incorporated some of our comments from the
Yeah.
sketch plan, and I assume one of the things you were waiting on was a land swap?
Actually, the land swap has occurred with the church, yeah, that's been done and recorded here now, so now we're on to the next thing, which would be the consolidation of the Coons house lot, and then onto the subdivision plans. But yeah, we're moving forward with that. The land swap has been recorded and all that, so.
Yeah, so I appreciate the process, and certainly the philosophical approach with the parking got my full support.
Thank you.
I appreciate less parking.
Yeah.
All right, well, would anyone like to make the motion?
I would just offer, I'm not less parking, but I'm less impervious would have been good too, but
Yeah.
you don't need the
Yeah.
parking until you
Yeah.
need the parking.
And you know, I
to
would
say
say
on
that's
this,
synonymous.
part of the site,
Now they put the pervious in.
part of the site is in the growth, is in the well protection, part of
Yep.
it isn't. But we only designed the site for 60% impervious rather than 70, because we could have said X amount is 70% and bumped it up, but, so we did hold the lower impervious coverage limits for the site, for the regional basin.
Thank you. So does anyone want to make the motion?
I can do that. Madam Chair, recommend council move to approve the park home furniture at Shiloh Commercial Park preliminary/final land development plan dated June 22nd, 2026, and last reviewed July 13th, 2026, subject to the following conditions. Within 90 days from the date of approval by council, all conditions must be satisfied. Final signatures must be obtained, and the plan must be recorded with the Center County Recorders of Deeds Office. Failure to meet these 90-day recordation time requirements will render the plan null and void. Pay all outstanding review fees. 3, address to the that word won't come out tonight, satisfaction of the township engineer and any outstanding plan review comments. 4, fully comply with College Township Code Section 180-12. 5, post surety as approved by the township engineer prior to recording. 6, record approval declaration of stormwater access and maintenance easement prior to recording. 7, provide proof of national pollutant discharge elimination systems approval. 8, provide intent to serve letter for the University Authority Joint Authority, sorry. 9, provide intent to serve letter from College Township Water Authority. 10, provide evidence of exemption from sewage planning. 11, work with College Township zoning officer and Center County 911 to establish proper addressing prior to the recording. And 12, record the Shiloh Commercial Park Phase 2 final submission plan prior to recording.
There's two more.
Two more?
13 and
Oh,
14
I'm
on the
sorry.
next page. That's fine.
Sorry. Okay, and I'm going to have to tear my paper, sorry. And 13, approve reduction of parking requirements as stated in the plan, which indicates the reservation of 6 parking spaces for future development if needed. And 14, all conditions must be accepted in writing within 7 days from the date of the confidential approval letter from the township engineer.
A second?
I have a question.
Please.
Mark, did I hear you say that you voluntarily held to 60% impervious when you could have gone 70 for the whole site?
Not for half of it, because part of it is.
Right,
protection
but
part.
you held it to 60 for both halves?
Yes, and for our regional basin calculations.
Well, that's worth noting, and that's another thing I really appreciate.
Thank you. Anybody want to second the motion?
And by the way, 1 for 2 in waivers is not bad with this group. Got to take the win.
John sent me here to get it, so I'm in trouble with that.
I will second that.
What are you seconding, the comments or the motion? To
The
clarify.
motion so that we
Thank
can
you.
get past the comments.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
I have one alibi. Mark, congratulations to Pantera on their 50th anniversary. For those that aren't aware, they're having after hours in September.
Yeah,
Congratulations.
thank you, and I enjoy coming to College Township, it's one of my favorite ones to come to. As a resident of College Township, we have good staff and got good council.
Thanks, Mark.
Okay, we'll see
Thanks,
you.
Mark.
Thanks, Mark.
All right. Plan 3, the villas at Happy Valley. This is a minor plan and it involves football. So Lindsay, if you would.
Sure, thank you. So this is a minor plan, and typically minor plans are reviewed and approved by the township zoning officer. But there's an option for the zoning officer to determine the plan comes to council or the planning or the planning commission if it is something that could be, controversial or more impactful. Although it meets the criteria of a minor, we felt that this one would be beneficial to be here in front of council because of the use. So this is the villas at Happy Valley, located at around Shiloh Road off of Drybelbis. The zoning district is R2. The proposal is to replace a sand volleyball pit or court with a pickleball court, some updated landscaping, walking paths, and a fire pit, and I believe a pergola. This has been reviewed by the Township Planning Commission, and they provided some of their concerns. Staff has also reviewed the plan and provided comments. Those comments included the Planning Commission's comments. And in addition, if council recalls the country club discussion, we provided the borough, State College Borough, with some mitigation factors for pickleball courts. We pulled some of those mitigation factors and added them to our comment letter. So that is in the hands of the developer and the architect. Some of the Planning Commission comments were, of course, noise concerns. So you can go to the next slides, the next one, or maybe one more to the end. Thank you. So some noise concerns, they suggested using evergreen trees for buffers, require soft paddles and balls. Also consider tall padded gates similar to what is existing at Burnell Road Park. Also, time limitations, align the hours with the township's noise ordinance, and consider scheduling uses or users of the court. Access, they questioned whether this would have public access or it would be limited to the villa's residents. And then about enforcement and community engagement, we requested, to have some rules and regulations provided and enforced, educate the players of the importance of respectful behavior and noise control, and then of course regular maintenance to ensure that everything is properly working and in place. Although not required by ordinance, we did put up a land development proposal sign just to kind of notify the neighbors. We added a QR code that brought them to the township's website where they could review the plan. Since we put the sign up, we have not heard any feedback from anyone in the area. So this is here for your consideration and comments. You don't have to necessarily approve the plan, but we just wanted to ensure that you know that this is happening.
Okay. Did you have any further comments, Mark?
Not at this time.
All right. So this is not an action item. Mark, you're seeking guidance from council on some of the specific concerns listed here.
This meets requirements
Right, for the
as
minor
is,
plan.
but we all know pickleball in particular is a kind of a hot button topic in a lot of communities around the country. We just wanted this before council on the front end, so you had an opportunity to offer any thoughts. We're limited on what we can require, but council input we feel is important here, for the benefit of the community.
All right. Are there any members of the public that wanted to bring forward their concern? If you would come to the podium and state your name and where you live.
So I'm Lance Brody, and on that little picture you put there, my house is right beside the villas. And I'm actually pretty okay with the design and everything like that. And my concern was the noise and the potential increase of noise. And I thought the same thing as you guys already discussed, putting pine trees down. I thought pine trees down both sides of that white fence that divides there, and just as a noise abatement program. And I do want to say, I lived there when the villas came in. I go, oh man, I am I'm not happy at all. But they've been a good neighbor. They really have for me. And when I had concerns, I called College Township or talked with them, and we resolved it. So I'm pretty happy with the villas, and they impact me probably more than anybody in this room right now. So I'm the one thing and they can't do anything about it, but I just want to bring it up. We have kids, or young people sometimes do really stupid things. They go down Gerald Street, and just as they turn on Drabobus, they floor. And about 11 o'clock at night, you can hear a race car going up. When they hit my place, they're going 50, 60 miles an hour. And there's, I just say, oh yeah, there they go again. There's nothing really you can do. I know you guys have had traffic police out there and stuff, but it's just, that's the way it is. That's life, let's move on. And so I just brought that up because it happens multiple times a week during the semester.
All right.
So, yeah, if we could do something about noise abatement, and which I heard, and it sounds like you're doing, and just keep that noise down as much as possible. I'd be happy with that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. All right. Rich,
You got it.
do you have
There was one
comments?
more.
Oh, sorry. Oh, I'm
More
so
people.
sorry.
Jane.
We're actually married. I wonder if we should just make our comments together, or you want to make
It's
yours?
up to you, yeah, it's fine.
Well, I'll stand up here while you
Kent Wilson, Jane Janser Wilson. My number one problem is basically the noise. And even with the abatement of some of the equipment, it still lowers your property value if you resell. That's been proven in other parts of town. These facilities belong in commercial areas and in athletic facilities. They do not belong in a residential area. It doesn't matter, the noise is a little less with the different paddles and stuff, but you've got to listen to it all the time. They've done this in Park Forest, they've changed the hours, but all the while it's open, you got to listen to this pounding going on all the time. The only abatement would be is if they put it in an insulated indoor facility, if they want to build that kind of, hall there. But it's going to basically degrade our end of the neighborhood. And we've already, speaking of what Lance just said, we've been T-boned on Dribblebus Road by college students coming out without even stopping or looking anywhere. We're driving 25 miles an hour and they're coming out at 60 miles an hour. And so, it's something we put up with because this was allowed to go in. And I understand, I've grown up in this town my whole life with college students, so I understand it. But this pickleball court is going to kill our neighborhood. And I'm not speaking lightly about it. It leads to the degradation of the immediate area of the neighborhood, just from the pickleball court. And unless you put it in an insulated building that will control the sound, our property values go down and our lifestyle, our quality of life is going to go down. And that's why the property values go down. Nobody wants to buy a house near a pickleball court, so you can't sell without a loss, a big loss. And so, that's kind of what we're going to have to deal with if you approve this. And I pray that you do not approve it unless it's in an insulated, soundproof building.
Thank you.
I'll just add a quick addendum to this. Mine's more of an educational standpoint. I don't know if anybody in this room or this, but many years ago, it's probably been 7 to 10 years ago, Park Forest at Park Forest Avenue and Park Avenue, where there's a nice park. I really don't remember the name of it.
Green Hollow.
Eric's grew up in that area. He probably know what park, but it's right around the Methodist church. Well, anyways, okay. My point is just education. A lot of what Jane says is very accurate. I would like to pinpoint that that despite, just like we said, everybody's best efforts to put they converted the tennis courts in that park to pickleball courts 5 to 7 years ago. And I just hope you're all ready. They got so many complaints, just enormous. And I'm assuming they came to Township, but there was article after article, and then eventually they had so much pressure. Of course, they reduced the hours on it, and I cannot confirm this, I think they eventually pulled the pickle courts out of there. I really can't, just because the enormous noise. And I appreciate the stuff like soft paddle bars and but kind of unfortunately, like Jane says, it's just a very noisy boat. And Eric would laugh about this. I was a cattle driver for 35 years. We worked at the same company for many years. We live about 3 doors down from Gerald Street. So the buses that serve the villa, and that's what I did for 35 years, is when you're sitting in our backyard, they chirp. We all laugh when they come up Gerald Street, and my point is, they run about every 20 minutes to school here, about once an hour on the weekends. And I can sit in my backyard, I can tell you, I can hear this chirp, 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 chirp. And we used to get those complaints as bus drivers many points in town, and now I'm retired now, so now I can see exactly what people are talking about. I think that has a lot to do with the pickleball. You can put all the constraints you want in there, but it's just a very noisy sport, so mine's just kind of an education. Just so you know, it happened one place in town And, and they finally had to get rid of it. It's just so many complaints, so noisy. So this isn't anything anybody's just making up, But anyways, but other than that, and for what it's worth, department, if they want to play there's the Pickler is opening up in the Benner Pike shops in just a month or two, right next to the old Joanne Fabrics. So there's a pickleball court within 2 blocks of the place.
Okay, thank you.
That's my comment. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you. Are there any members of the public online that would like to make comments? Okay. Rich?
I think the lessons learned in Patton Township are playing out here. So I appreciated that the staff already proactively loading that. Just a couple questions. Is there a homeowners association or a condo association for this development at this point?
These are, it's an apartment complex,
Yeah.
there's
Okay.
no individual.
Well, I
ownership.
know it started that way, and then they sold them off. I didn't know if they stood up a condo association or something like that. There's no lights on these courts, correct?
Correct, had no intention of lighting it.
And there's nothing in our ordinance that precludes pickleball as a recreational use?
Correct.
Okay. The one thing that I think helps in this, when I look at this, is the location. It's not in the center of the development and everything, it's more towards the road and everything, so, but that,
That's not true.
Excuse me.
It's right along
Mrs.
our
Wilson?
development. Yeah.
Mrs. Wilson, please let,
I mean, we're a block and a half away.
Mrs. Wilson.
And he's right next to us.
Mrs. Wilson, Mr. Wilson, please hold your comments. Mr.
Don't say
Frank?
something that's untrue.
if you would allow me to finish my
Mr. Frank
statement.
is finishing his comments. Please hold your comments, please.
I was speaking of the property that it's located on. I was going to then speak to the adjoining properties. We've already heard from Mr. Brody, which we appreciated him taking the time to share that. I do not negate the potential on the other properties. I do not agree with your assessment of property values and whatnot, but at the end of the day, our role is not to approve this or not approve this. So,
I have friends by
Mrs.
the other
Wilson,
one.
please
I have
sit
friends by
down.
the other one, their property value went down 30%.
You can cut CNET if you
Okay.
can choose that if they won't
Please hold CNET.
respect the
Thank you.
process.
that's all I have.
I'm going to ask you to please hold your comments. If you cannot hold your comments, Mrs. Wilson, Mrs. Wilson, we'll have to ask you to leave the meeting if you can't hold your comments.
Where we're at here with this, what Marcus said, this is a minor plan that there is no reason, we have no leverage to not, you have no leverage to not approve it.
Correct. We can request
Right,
as
so
much
you're-
as we can, as far as requesting adjusting hours. I believe there was probably something similar when this development was being built, with that being a sand volleyball pit, with people fearful this is going to be raucous, rowdy. There's really, the only remedy is do the best we can. If it becomes a public nuisance, both the township and/or the neighbors, this would be something that would almost, from what I've seen through other areas around the country where this happens, it may get to the point where it's going to have to be litigated through a courtroom, where a judge will set parameters that we don't have the authority to do. It's possible it could be noisy and it could be bothersome to the neighbors. And I'm pretty confident the township would stand with the neighbors if it became a problem, and invest some time and money to get this before a court where they could adjudicate it and and set parameters that we don't have the authority to. This is legal accessory use to the complex. It's a use by right, and it's accessory use for the residents. We have no ability to prevent it. Again, this is before council, so when the representative for the developer comes up, you can inquire as to what kind of mitigation they may be intending to attempt, and also request anything else you want. You can request, but we cannot demand.
Okay. And Theo is here tonight? Right?
Yes.
Okay. I thought that was him back there. All right, so it seems to me that the most efficient use of our time tonight is to provide you with maybe what we think would be reasonable things to at least try to negotiate with the developer to mitigate some of the impacts. Am I correct?
Yes, and common sense would almost dictate that the developer would want to limit ongoing problems with the neighbors, because if the township and/or neighbors pursue this to another level, it's just going to hit the bank account of the developer to defend keeping it. Common sense would say, let's throw the money at it now to try to avoid any problems, rather than getting it into court and then being ordered to either cease use or throw big money into it at a later time.
Yeah, I agree. The key here is to ask for reasonable things so that we can get them, and we stand the best chance to get things incorporated into the design. And so I'll offer my thoughts here. But I do want to say that I'm familiar with Green Island Park, and one of the issues there was nobody was ever playing tennis court, so there was no noise until people started playing pickleball there. And this is a little different because you can play pickleball on a tennis court whether they mark it for pickleball or not. Now, this is a little bit different because you can't play pickleball here now. You know, it's a sand volleyball court. But just a little context for Park Forest. So from that standpoint, as far as the 3 bullets under the noise concerns, I'm not a big fan of number 2. I mean, that to me seems like an enforcement nightmare. Plus, we've heard tonight that there's at least some thought that soft paddles and balls aren't that effective. But I can't imagine trying to even enforce that. I'm more of a fan of a holistic approach that provides some kind of sound and a one-time installment that provides some kind of sound buffer, which is the first and third one. On the time limit, what is the time and what is the reduction in the noise ordinance?
Well, this is kind of hits sort of some gray areas.
In other words, do we have a decibel level that drops after a certain amount of time? And so what time is that?
Well, as far as decibel levels, and I know we've discussed this before council in the past, my previous employment with State College Borough, and at one time the noise ordinance and loud music and everything was enforced with the noise meters. Our courts have since decided that those noise readings are invalid unless they are done in a controlled environment. So for us, if we were to want to get noise readings on something coming from that pickleball court, the best I understand of the court case law is we need to seal off all other external sounds, airplanes, cars driving by, wind rustling through the leaves in the trees, before we can get an accurate reading of what noise that is producing. So the noise, the decibel level is very, almost impossible to enforce.
Okay.
Pennsylvania Crimes Code does have the disorderly conduct statute, and that's where you run into reasonableness. If someone were complaining about pickleball at noon, that's reasonable to play pickleball at noon. If people are out there playing at midnight, that's reasonable for the police to come and say, no, this is disorderly, this is an unreasonable noise at an unreasonable time.
Okay, so that leads me to the second part of that, considering setting times to play, because that seems to be, while not holistic, somebody still has to enforce that, but at least that's a hard deadline or a hard time that the property owner would be well vested in enforcing themselves. And then access to the court and enforcement, again, who's gonna, I think if they can put in physical barriers and set time limits, those seem to be reasonable requests that would be at least theoretically more effective than anything else we could ask for. Those are my thoughts.
Well, and the fact that they have no intention of lighting these pickleball courts, that is, by nature, is going to reduce the times people will be using it.
Or it fits your description of unreasonable.
Yes, but even once it gets dark,
Yeah,
if someone
that's
wants
what I
to
mean.
play in November, even though it's only 6 o'clock, it's gonna be dark, you can't play, because you can't see the ball.
Yeah, so really that eliminates all the subjectiveness and the enforcement if you go with physical barriers and time limits.
Daylight hours, and if that became an issue, I feel comfortable that the management would work with the township if this became an issue, and they would, I think they would at least entertain the thought of limiting hours should this become a problem. I have no doubt that people within a couple block area will hear the balls clunk, clunk. But that's a lawful use of their property, just like I can't say you're not allowed to mow your lawn because someone doesn't like the lawnmower. Or you can't dribble about, your neighbor's kid can't dribble a basketball and shoot hoops in the driveway because they don't want to hear the thump, thump, thump of the basketball. We have to allow for reasonable use of property by the property owners as well.
Okay. Tracy?
Yeah, is it from the development?
I'm going to wait to call him after, unless,
Okay,
did you
that
have a
was my
question for him?
questions
All
towards
right.
him,
You're the developer?
Yeah.
Ms. Mariner has a question for you.
Yeah.
Hi, yeah, I was just wondering why is the,
Maybe Theo should introduce himself.
yeah,
Yeah, I'm Theo Twing with LASTS. It's a consultant firm, and I'm working with Happy Valley Villas, and as well as with a landscape contractor and civil engineer, Hawbaker Engineers.
okay. I just wanted to ask, well, the proposal for the pickleball court, is that because of the, like, what's the reasoning? Is it because the volleyball court is underused? Was it like, did you guys do like a survey to see if your residents were interested in it? So what was the logic behind the proposal?
The way I understand is that a new developer bought the property,
Gotcha.
and they just wanted to convert the volleyball to pickleball, because that's kind of the new activity.
And do you know, as far as like the access, do you know if it's only going to be for residents?
It's just for residents.
Just for residents, okay. And then this developer, do they have other pickleball courts in their other developments, or?
They did say that I believe they have other developments, not in State College, but I believe they do have pickleball courts in other developments.
And did they start out that way, or were they converted? And what was the kind of progression there? Like, what have they saw there?
I would have to talk to them, I'm not sure.
Okay. Is there anything else? I guess it really doesn't. Well, I guess you can't answer that either. So that's all I have for now, yeah.
All right. So, given that it is an allowed use, and it is not something we can say can't be done, I do think that any of the mitigation factors that the developer can put in around the court, specifically those best practices. So I do think that number 2 is an important consideration under noise concerns, because those soft paddles can reduce the sound conduction to about 10% of what it would be without the soft paddles. Again, those can't be forced, but we can certainly make a recommendation that the developer consider those, because all 3 of those noise concerns and those mitigation factors are best practices that, you know, are being used in other places. So that would include those fences that are about 10 to 12 feet, and also some kind of padded vinyl covering around the fences, rather than the wind screens that we see in some other places. So I think working with the developer on those noise mitigation considerations would be important. And I think our ordinance has time limits from about 8 or 7 a.m. to about 9 p.m., but the
That's
lighting would also...
generally for construction.
Right, so that would be your discretion to determine if those complaints about noise rise to the level of a problem that you would work with in terms of enforcement.
Yes, and
Right.
also we contract through the State College Police, anything that would happen after hours or on weekends.
Okay.
That's why we pay the money to the police department, and they will respond, and I think they do a very good job of mitigating situations as well.
And then I think the last question you answered for us was that this would be limited to the residents and it wouldn't be open to the public.
That's correct.
Okay.
The way I understand it is that they said they're going to submit their full response back on Monday to all the comments. And in terms of like the policy of enforcing the paddles, basically they're going to put it in a lease agreement and then rent the paddles out like within the office.
Oh, nice.
No, that makes it a lot
Yeah.
Yeah,
easier.
that does. Okay, good.
I
That's
was
very
thinking
helpful.
Mark was gonna have to go up there and make sure they were using
I was gonna ask that, but it didn't seem like he had.
Go ahead.
No, I was gonna ask, how would they mitigate that, but I didn't know if you had the answer, but you said that
I
that
think
would be
they're
in the
trying to
lease.
mitigate it from the source, which is
Yeah.
the paddle
Yep.
itself as much as possible. That's their, I think the origin of the sound, so that's what they want to mitigate it that way as much as possible. So it's
Have a follow-up while he has the podium.
Sure.
Yeah, Theo, Tracy made me think of something. Is the new developer targeting a different age demographic as a tenant, or have college students just taken to pickleball? Because I've always associated that with...
retirement.
Right.
I can answer that, actually. It's becoming a lot more popular with a lot of younger people. So
Okay.
it is an amenity that younger people's
Demographic.
developments are adding. So yeah, it's not just for old people like us.
Okay, so if the sand volleyball was still really popular, we would be dealing with pushback because there was parties and noise and that kind of stuff. It's just that nobody's playing sand volleyball, and pickleball is what they want to play.
The demand is
That's what it sounds like, yeah. I mean, I was at Brunel today, someone was playing, and, they're maybe, I would say like in their 50s or 60s, a group of people. And,
Middle age.
yeah, middle age, but they like to play on the campus because the campus has nice courts too. So, but the students, a lot of times are playing there, so it's hard. But, yeah, I understand the sound issue. I think the decibel readings off of those paddles is probably like if you're standing, maybe, I think your house, is yours the first one that Jason
Yeah,
did?
yeah, I'm right, I'm
Good. And then you,
the tree line.
where are you guys
We're a
located?
block down the road.
A block down the road,
The
okay.
thing is, it's not the sound decibel.
Yeah.
So I'm going to
It's
ask,
pounding back and forth.
Mrs. Wilson, if you'll hold your comments, please. Each person speaks, and then we ask someone else if we're going to reply. At this point, though, I appreciate your expertise, and I think what we're doing is we're trying to give guidance to our zoning ordinance officer on what he needs to do to approve a minor land development plan. So I think unless council has other questions regarding any of the other specific mitigation factors, I would ask if you have what you need from us in terms of what you need to consider.
Yeah, I just had one quick question for
Sure.
Mr. Twing. Since the planning commission, when some of this was discussed, have you gotten any feedback from the developer of willingness to do some additional things, like you said, pine trees and some other landscaping that to try and catch? Are they receptive to that, or has that been discussed with them?
They want to keep the views as open as possible, that's my understanding. They don't really prefer to do landscaping in terms of like evergreen hedge. They are open to doing it if it's necessary, but and then the fencing, it sounds like they're open to providing like the fencing and the mats, especially on like the back left-hand side that's affecting the neighborhood to that side. If there's, of course, if there's ways for them to minimize some of the.
So they've indicated they'd be willing to do the matted
Yeah.
fence for starters.
Yeah.
I guess I could understand they may want to keep the view of Beaver Stadium as one of the selling points for
So one of
that.
the things I would ask is, do you have enough guidance from
Yes.
us at this point? And those are
Yes.
questions you can ask the developer specifically when you sit down for the plan. So
Okay.
unless there are further comments or questions or guidance for Mark at this point, I'd like to move on to the next item on our agenda. Thank you very much. All right, our next item, since we moved the order of the plan around to accommodate these plans being discussed first, I would ask that Kim come to the podium and give us a special presentation on the College Township Finance Report.
Good evening. I provided council the standard memo with the status, the 26 project status report and the line item detail as of June 30th, 2026. I also included an executive summary, which I thought might be helpful to some of our members. So here we have, some of it might be hard to see, sorry about that. There's a lot of info to squish into a little box. We're comparing, the green column is 2025's revenues and expenditures, and the orange or dark yellow block would be 2026's revenues and expenditures. We are running sort of the opposite of we did last year. Last year, revenues were up and expenses down, and this year, revenues are slightly down and expenses up, which is understandable with the political environment. And currently, we're running at a deficit of $478,000, which isn't an extreme amount, but there's a timing issue with the loan drawdown, which has to do with the capital projects, which we'll get into a little bit later. I already noted the deficit. This is just another way of looking at the information that was on the first slide, and this is what we have in the general fund currently. This year, we have 2.951K in there, 1,000 for expenditures, and I'm sorry, I was reading 25, my apologies. Revenues for 2026 are in the orange column, so we have $3,132,000 in there, and our expenditures currently are the $3,610,000. These are all rounded off to make things easier. Last year, we had a surplus of $214,000, and as I said, a small deficit this year. General fund revenue highlights real estate taxes, which is 66% of the 2026 budget, is doing well, very well for this year. The Act 511 taxes, which is going to be LST tax and our income tax, that's 48% of the budget. Licenses and permits, and this would be the zoning area, is running at 51% of the budget, and our PSU impact fees and fees in lieu of taxes is at 51% of this year's budgeted amount. And then we have charges and fees, and this would be like our planning fees and extension fees is at 20%. And interest is not as good as it might have been since the reduction in interest rates by the feds. The expenditure highlights, we're looking at some of the expenditures that are a little higher than what we budgeted for 2026. The legal services, that was up. We had budgeted a little lower, so it looks like there's almost twice as much spent. It wasn't. Expenditures were at the $15,000 and we had only budgeted $8,500, assuming that that would be enough. The unemployment insurance is slightly up. We've hired many new employees, which when the budget was created last year, that amount wasn't considered in the budget. Police protection is running at its average. It's slightly over by 0.4%. Real estate tax collection, which is our strongest revenue, is running at 95% for all funds this year, which is slightly up from last year where it was at 91%. So our total collection so far this year is 94.8%. And this is just a comparison from 2025 to 2026. And the changes per fund, which have all pretty much run close together. The only one was construction and the general fund, which was noted earlier. We're looking at capital projects and the 2022 general obligation note financing. Currently, there's a timing issue. We spent the money before we could draw down on the loan. Our plan is to draw down $566,882, which will leave $541,240 for the year. We have some major projects coming which will start in the second half of the year. This is going to be an estimated $2.5 million for the main office renovation of the building, which we're assuming may start in September, November, I think, probably. We have the path to campus, $850,000, and the Hauserville Road sidewalk for $700,000. We're estimating that should be completed this year. And then we have many projects with the traffic signal updates and some public works equipment and vehicles that we'll be replacing. So as we look at the second half of the year, the finance will be monitoring the general funds as the general fund revenue. the legal and unemployment accounts, which I'm hoping that those are all of the expenses that we'll have in those two accounts. Our capital projects and the costs of those, final costs. The grants, which will be coming in. We did receive this year for our 2025's traffic signal projects, $190,880. And all of these things will be considered in the year-end forecast. So in conclusion, the township is financially stable. Real estate tax collections are ahead of last year's pace in every tax-supported fund. General fund spending is tracking near the mid-year benchmark, and year-to-date general fund variances explained by the timing of the budget proceeds rather than an operating shortfall. Major capital projects are positioned to move into their construction phase, and staff will continue to monitor the revenue expenditures and capital financing activities through the close of the year.
Okay, thank you. All right.
Questions, comments on anything?
Eric?
No.
Rich?
Just, so in looking at revenues 25 versus 26, just a real minor dip, not even significant, but when you look at that real estate tax collection is ahead, earned income tax is ahead, and PSU impact is ahead, what's behind that is driving that?
I think it's the construction costs, which I was saying, once we do the drawdown, it will flip.
No, I understand on the net, but did we have more construction money last year than we have this year? Is that what you're saying?
Yes, we did. We did. At the front end of the year, we had more for construction.
Yeah, and the expenditures is timing.
Okay. I don't have any questions.
So if everybody likes this format, I would definitely like feedback if you prefer this format or something else, something that makes it easier.
I think the memo was well done. I think the executive summary was very helpful. The presentation is good to look at it and see it in terms of laid out a little bit differently, but I think it was very well explained. Any other comments or questions?
Nope.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks, Kim.
All right, 8:30. All right, our next item up is reports. Our first one is the manager's report.
Yeah, I wanted to highlight a couple things, just because a lot of those big projects that Kim just referenced, we're starting to see some traction on. Under Path to Campus, as noted in the last note, we have received a redesigned stormwater engineering from Keller. That project continues to churn along. At this point, we're working through archaeological, and like I said, stormwater. Those are the big two at the moment. And the hope is that we can move this and move into next year really as a construction project. So stay tuned. That one continues to churn. Kim referenced the municipal facilities renovation. Kimmel had reached out for an informal cost estimate from Poole Anderson, a local contractor, and they provided a estimated building renovation cost currently at 2.3, just over 2.3 million, not including furnishing. We were anticipating anywhere between 2.5 to 3. I actually think CIP has 3.3 million in there, so we're right where we need to be. Once you tack furnishing onto there, it's looking like it's going to be about a $3 million project. So, Shiloh Road continues to churn here. Dawn, I got to tip my cap to Dawn and Sharon. They did a heavy lift here over the last couple weeks. to put together a draft Phase 1 bid package. This is specific to the Maxwell development. That is currently in the hands of PennDOT for their review, and we're hoping to get that out on the street relatively soon so that we can advance that project here and hit some timelines that Mr. Maxwell is needing us to hit. Really, it's kind of April of next year is a key point for us. So we're right on target for that, but just wanted to emphasize that. And then Adam had brought previously that we're starting work on modifications to special event permitting. Adam recently circulated a draft of those changes to staff for review and comment. We're in that process now. So you can expect sometime here this fall to be hearing from us about special event permitting, and that obviously will be a big discussion item for you as council. So those are some big tickets. Also included at the back end of his manager's report, I wanted to highlight that we have received our first local share assessment payment from the casino in the amount of $127,000. So it's, that's obviously revenue in the bank. It was a little lower than we were expecting. There was a cut taken off the top from our friends at the Gaming Control Board, but we recognize they also have expenses too. But just want to acknowledge that the first payment has hit the bank account. That's all I have.
Are there any questions for?
Two, anything to read into the archaeological report revision that would affect our timeline or our
no, it was just a lot of little minor comments that the archaeologist had to resubmit his report, but nothing questioning the findings of the report. It was just literally one of them was gas line is 2 words, not 1 word.
So that's about as good as we could have possibly expected.
Yeah, nothing has been found that would make us have to do additional, a phase 2 or anything like that.
Okay, that's what I was getting at.
Yeah, no.
And then quickly, what does phase 1 of the Shiloh corridor, what does that include?
It's primarily Shiloh and Trout, the intersection there, so it'd be the turning lanes and setting it up for the signals. Yeah, there's actually a decel on both sides, I believe, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
Yeah, so right
And the
turns.
traffic light.
And the traffic light.
Traffic light.
Yeah, the traffic light at this point is not warranted, but we know it's coming. So, as part of this project, they will start moving towards getting that light put in there. If it goes in before we trip the warrant, it'll sit there and be bagged until it's such time as it trips the warrant at PennDOT.
Okay, that's all I have.
Questions, Rich?
Not really a question, but to expound on the building renovations, the cost estimate was based on a 70% complete drawings, which is really good to be that close at this point. And that number is within the budget that Kimmel provided us, which we've used throughout our stuff. So that is tracking very nicely. And then I was actually pleased and surprised to see that we're getting the second a payment on the gaming for the second quarter within a month of the end of the second quarter. I mean, that's...
Yeah, and I will remind council, obviously coming into this year in your annual budget, we kind of crystal balled the number. Your expenditures that were tied to that budget number was about $175,000. So we've almost, the next payment's going to satisfy what you had budgeted for this year.
Right.
And we don't know if that payment that the Gaming Control Board took, they'll take each quarter.
I'm not sure at this point. I mean, I'm kind of assuming that we're going to see that off the top each time, but not 100% sure.
Any COG, local committee meetings? Do you have any reports?
I had one today, so I didn't have time to put a report together.
Okay.
But it only had 2 agenda items.
Okay.
Both were information items, but both were interesting, I thought. Tussey Mountain, we reviewed the Tussey Mountain Ski and Recreation Development, it's DRI. So in other words, Tussey has asked for an expansion of the regional growth boundary. They own about 120 or 30 acres altogether, and they asked for about 30 or 40 acres to be included in the regional growth boundary. And it's really the acreage that the existing entertainment type facilities are on, not the ski slope. Interestingly though, they are already served by public sewer, which is generally, the motivation for asking for the, but through this, and by the way, the DRI was reviewed by Center Region Planning Agency and supported. The request was supported for similar reasons that ARL was supported. But the reason that they're asking for it to be included, even though in our sewer service area, that the area is served by a 6-inch sewer main through some kind of agreement 20 years ago. And if it's included in the regional growth boundary, they're allowed to expand that to 8 inches or 10 inches or larger. But the point is that that expansion would then allow them to more intensely develop that 30 or 40 acres that is currently being used for entertainment opportunities. So I thought that was interesting. And there was really no pushback from anybody on the Lucy Committee. It did not require approval or a recommendation. It was simply there for us to get become aware of so that we could come back and talk to our fellow council members and supervisors ahead of general forum, when it goes to general forum. So it's going to come to general forum. We're going to do the same thing we did with ARL. We'll have a presentation and a vote. I imagine it'll be over 2 general forum meetings because that's the process. The first one will be information. The second one will be for the vote. But the only issues that were really brought up at Lucy were all issues that would likely, just like ARL, be addressed at the land development plan. And then the second agenda item was data centers, implications in the center region. Again, an information item, but staff, I thought, did a good job of including this. Jenna had just attended a seminar, APA's Pennsylvania Workshop, Planning for Data Centers seminar. So they shared with us a lot of information about data centers, their impacts, and what municipalities around the state are doing to help offset those impacts, and frankly, what municipalities can and cannot do. But it was very helpful, I thought, because it cleared up a lot of misconceptions, I think, that are floating around there about data centers. And I'm not saying that because I approve or disapprove. I'm just saying it kind of cleared a lot of the noise around this. So I think it will allow us to focus on what's relevant and within our area that we can control. I use the opportunity to share with them what we have already done, because again, I think we're the only ones to make any kind of adjustments, and why we did that in advance of House Bill 939 or 989, which I understand now has since been revised, and some of the scary language that was in there the first time around has been mitigated. But nevertheless, we did what we thought we needed to do at the time to protect not only our residents but the center region. So it was good stuff, I thought. So be prepared to see another regional RGB expansion agenda in another robust debate, I'm sure, at General Forum.
Thank you. Anything, any committee reports?
No,
I had none. All right. Next item up then, the DEIB reports.
Sure, just a few things. Specific days, August 9th is International Day of the World's Indigenous Peoples. August 19th is World Humanitarian Day. August 26th is Women's Equality Day. Month-wide recognitions, August is Black Business Month, Intersectionality Awareness Month, and National Civility Month.
Oh, and I do want to note that we have a written report from our PC representative on the PC. He's not able to attend tonight, so that's there for our review. Thank you. Next item up is the consent agenda. Tonight, we have on the consent agenda CA1. We have the approval of minutes, CA1A, July 16th, College Township Public Hearing Meeting minutes. We have CA1B, July 16th, College Township Regular Meeting minutes, and we have CA1C, July 27th, College Township Council Special Meeting minutes. That was from the general forum. We have CA2, we have the correspondence. We have CA2A, letter from Pantera dated July 30th regarding time extension for Canterbury Crossing, St. Ives Phase 2, PRD, to November 14th. And then CA2B is a letter to the PA Department of General Services from Representative Benninghoff regarding the Rockview property. CA3 action items, we have CA3A, sale of surplus equipment. CA3B, letter of support from CTIDA, the ARC grant application. And CA3C, resolution R-26-22, the Summit Park CFA multimodal grant application. Do any members of council wish to pull any of the items from the consent agenda for further discussion? Anything to pull?
No.
Right.
Move to accept the consent agenda as presented.
Second?
All right, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All right, any opposed? All right, next item up, we have old business. We have OB1, we have the form-based code discussion tonight. This was carried over from our work group. And I believe, Lindsay, you're going to lead the discussion?
Yes, thank you very much. So, as Madam Chair just noted, this is a follow-up from the work session scheduled for July 30th. The memo in front of you, it's formed that evening. We were to discuss uses, the regulating plan, and administration. So I have a PowerPoint tonight to go along with the memo, so we can just dive in. So administration and uses. We'll start with administration. The form-based code is kind of set up in the way that when plans come in, they're similar to the planned residential development or PRD process, where we see tentative plans or preliminary plans first, and then we look for final plans. There's a lot of other information here within the ordinance regarding administration, including what types of subdivisions and how, depending on acreage, we have general requirements just for submissions, final plans, sketch plans, minor plans, and pre-application conferences. So everything is pretty straightforward when it comes to administration, but there are a few things that we wanted to talk to you about. And it's about final plan procedure. So if you recall, the last PRD we looked at was the CREW 814 planned residential development. The process included a tentative plan submission. So that's when council, the planning commission, staff, the Center Regional Planning Agency, sewer, water, everyone takes a look at the tentative plan, and that is what gets sort of checked off as in you're good, you meet all of the requirements in the ordinance, and then that is what the final plan is then based upon. So the tentative plan is reviewed again by council, the planning commission, and then when the final plan comes in, there are two options. The one option would be for council to see the final plan and approve it. It has to be very specific to the tentative plan. If the final plan strays from the tentative plan at all, the developer has to write it in writing saying this is what we did, and then there's a process to go back and amend that if necessary. So the option one would be for council reviews and approves the final plan based upon the tentative plan, just as we do right now with PRDs, or a preliminary plan versus a final plan under our regular land development. Option two is a new process where staff would perform a final review. And that, of course, is limited to determining if the final plan is consistent with the tentative plan approval, including any conditions or modifications that council requires. So those are the two options. There's also, we were thinking a little bit more about it today, maybe a hybrid approach. We've talked about this in the past. You know, we could, the hybrid approach would be, you know, council would review all bigger plans for the special districts, which are our bigger areas, Corning, Shiloh area, and the mall. So those would be kind of the larger developments that we would be reviewing. Council could see those. Just as an example, we've also talked about maybe easing into this, and you know, maybe the first few plans that come in under the form-based code, council sees tentative and approves the final, and then we just kind of get a feeling for how that's going, and then if council becomes comfortable with that, then staff would be able to do those final reviews. Just noting that the final plan doesn't, again, stray from the tentative plan, which gets stamped and approved by council as recommended by the Planning Commission and staff. So that's one option, one thing that we wanted to discuss with you. So if you wanted to kind of pause there and hold that discussion, that'd be great.
Eric, you have a lot of experience on Planning Commission and on council. Do you want to share your thoughts?
I like option 2, which is not a lot different than what the borough does with land development plans, and that, you know, that seems to work pretty well for them. But the hybrid you suggested, I'm not opposed at all to that, either that approach where we set boundary based on the size of the parcel. That makes some sense too. Or even what you said, you know, we go into it with option 2 and adjust as we go. I mean, we're going to do that anyways at some level, you know, whether it's based on size or whatever. There's going to be some tweaks that'll need to be made. So, you know, I like to, or some hybrid version of 2 that sets kind of like what you have here. You already have the, I guess you're basing this on parcel size, right?
Yeah,
Like,
or district size, yeah. Because if you would, like, the regulating plan highlights where, you know, because Corning is, you know, a couple, at least 100 acres, max the Shiloh area, you know, and then, of course, the mall, which is a special district.
So I like those, recognizing we're going to make changes to whatever we decide tonight anyways, and we need a place to start. Those sound like reasonable starting points.
Great. Yeah, and you're right. When we get our first plan and we play it through the ordinance and see how everything goes, we may, as right, be back here saying, okay, we're going to change this and this and this, which, you know, live and learn. It's a living document, so. Okay, thanks for your input.
Tracy?
I agree. I was going to go with option 2, so I think we're on the same page because I think staff does a good job and why rock the boat. So,
Great.
option 2.
Rich?
I think I'm more on the hybrid, but with the lean towards option 2, with staff saying, hey, here's where, when it gets over this size, we'd really like to hear from council or planning commission and everything like that. And then also, just as we did today, staff has the opportunity to bring it to, kick it to planning commission and or, so just so that it's not so cut, oh, it's this, it has to go here, or it has to go there. Maintain that flexibility that staff can come and ask. So
The borough staff just kicked a minor plan to council recently, voluntarily.
Yeah. That's helpful. I think so.
Is there any value in calling out those special districts? Because I know the uses in the special districts are sort of less well-defined than in some of the other districts.
Yeah.
Or is that just something we can leave to the discretion of staff the way we're talking about?
Well, I think, you know, the special districts have, because they're so much larger, there's just more opportunity for large-scale developments. And when we think about the type of zoning we're putting in place, where it comes down to density, to the streetscape, you know, how everything's going to be built and set up, you know, that might be something that, you know, if we're building a little town over, you know, near Corning, a little town center, something along those lines, then that would definitely be something that is going to be very impactful, you know, not just here, but regionally. That would be something that council would probably need to see and give final approval on. You're gonna see them all regardless, of course, at tentative stage, but, you know, just to check all the boxes and just have that comfort might be better for the special districts.
Okay. Well, it sounds like we have consensus on option 2. And then discretion for staff to bring forward to council if need be.
Yes, that's great. We're keeping a log of everything that we've discussed. From the results of the last one, I think we're gonna bring back maybe the option for the streetscape without parking. So that's one thing that we'll bring back to you at the end of this, just to kind of tidy up all of the things. So we're just keeping a running tab of what we need to bring back. We can adjust this a little bit, and then at the end, this will be something, say, okay, remember this discussion? This is what we're gonna go with.
Yeah, the one thing I would underscore for this whole conversation is you're still at the very beginning of a larger conversation. So as we go through and we talk about special districts at some point here in the future, you may say, okay, I understand what you're doing, or you may modify it to say, this is what we want. That drives you right back to option 2 without the hybrid approach. But I appreciate your trust and the kind comments towards staff. I think option 2 is a sound option for this, because the heavy lift is at the tentative plan, to be honest. And then when it comes to the final plan, in this process, it's more administrative. That said, there may be areas, and I think you framed that up very well, all of you, that we want to bring those to your attention because there's special considerations associated with them. So I'm very comfortable with where you're at, and I think that may actually evolve a little bit as we go through the process to understand what each of these districts look like. So.
Great. So I know we've been talking about visuals a lot, and I feel like this is a good opportunity to kind of bring that conversation back. So the ordinance as it is now, the proposed requirement states visual representations of the buildings and overall development. That's the requirement in the code. So we wanted to beef that up a little bit, and we were thinking that requiring visuals can be determined by the intensity of the plan. So for example, if someone comes in under the code with a single family home, or they want to put in an accessory building on their property, we wouldn't require visuals for that. They could be exempt. But if it were maybe a minor plan, similar to what we saw tonight, we would ask for simple visuals. Maybe, you know, the building itself, the views around it, but then maybe something more standard, like a new building or an addition, you know, we, depending on the square footage of that or the height, we would require more intensive visuals. And then for something higher impact, like maybe a special district development, we would require, you know, renderings. Maybe, you know, there's a lot of things. Sometimes people require you to, like, you know, put a balloon on a string for a while and see how high the building's gonna be in the community, you know, just to kind of give everyone that visual impact of how it's going to end up being. So, and then of course we can talk about terminology. Do you want to call these visual representations or I'm not going to be able to say that word. Contextual illustrations, rather than just visuals. We can kind of fancy it up a little bit depending on what you think. But that's kind of where we want to go from here. This wasn't necessarily a part of the code as it was presented to us, but this is something different because we've been having that visuals discussion now for a while, needing to have it.
And so this comes in under something like the sketch plan review or the review?
It would be under plan requirements. So for a tentative plan, preliminary plan, tentative plan, it would just be required there under that section.
So just as an addition to what's in there.
Yeah, just in addition to visual representations of the building and overall development, we would just expand on that requirement.
Comments?
Yeah, is that kind of like putting new tape on the carpet to give us context?
Yeah,
Okay.
just,
We've been talking about that for a long time, even way before form-based code, and I like the idea because it's form-based code. So that indicates, you know, that form is a prominent feature and function of the zoning district. So the more of that we can see through the process to give us the, you know, the visuals, the better. So I'll leave it to staff to determine the thresholds and the level of detail. But I think you're on the right track.
all right, great, thank you.
Tracy?
So you're saying like if it's a single family home, no renderings? Is that what you're saying, like nothing?
No, I mean, just what we require now, which is the building plans.
The building
Yeah,
plans,
just
okay.
for a zoning. Those are just simple zoning permits.
Yeah, I agree. I like the phase out, and I think that we should, I agree with Eric. I was supposed to call you Rich, sorry. I agree with Eric when he says like leaving it to your discretion what that all entails. Again, I think you guys do a thorough approach to things, so I trust your judgment on that. Then as far as like the terminology, I like the second one, but I'm not gonna try and say it because my tongue won't loose either tonight.
Yeah.
No, I'm all for the renderings. I would offer, whatever we do here, I'd like to see in the rest of the ordinance and everything. And I do like the graduated approach towards it, and that could be size, newness, dollars, it could be many things.
Yeah.
And I think staff would be the best judge on where those thresholds would be.
Great, thank you.
Do you have what you need?
I do, yeah,
Okay.
that's great, thank you.
Great.
So we're moving right along. Let's see what the next slide is. The regulating plan, or the form-based code zoning map. Over the past few months, we've been having some discussions and took a look at the regulating plan and found a few areas. One was based upon citizens' input. That is the Reese Road area. I think it says Clyde in your memo, but it's actually Reese. So that's the green area at the bottom right. How would you feel about expanding that boundary just back along that area to include those properties that are back there off of Reese Road? And that would be in the mixed core. We could, and would sort of allow a little buffer there too from the Jallis Circle, J Lane, that development there. So we would just expand that a little in that area. That's one request. We also looked at Lime Rock Terrace. Those are some small properties right now and smaller homes, but there is some opportunity, if need be, someone could subdivide some of those lots, maybe add accessory dwelling units, a second dwelling on the lot. The setbacks would be different, and the density requirements, so that has some potential there for benefits of form-based zoning. And then the Mountain View Avenue area, we sort of kept out, and it actually ties back to the PED plan because that's one of our missing links. So, and one of our paths of least resistance when it comes to skipping over College Avenue and those engineering barriers that we have there. So by incorporating the Mountain View Avenue area into the plan, it might benefit that more, especially when it comes to, pedestrian connections and just development. If those houses or apartments there were ever to go away, then they would have to be built under the form-based code. So we wanted your input on expanding the boundary a little bit.
Rich?
I think you made a compelling case for all of those. I would support that.
Yeah, Lindsay, I think you nailed it pretty good. Just a few comments. I always thought Reese Road was included in it, so it seems a very natural extension. There's not a lot of difference between the lots on one side of the road and the other. And as far as the yellow goes, I like that because you talk about subdivision, I'm thinking lot consolidation, you know, between all those small lots and the ability to actually do something pretty impactful along there. And Mountain View, we call that Mountain, the blue, the light blue?
Yeah, Mountain View Avenue.
Yeah, I mean, that makes sense for what you talked about. You know, it's probably the only way we're ever going to get that, that connection, so.
I agree.
Based on what Eric just shared there with the consolidation and stuff, should we actually potentially be looking at the area from, let's go north of First Avenue towards Lime Rock, that swath down through there?
Oh, yeah,
That
it's Mike,
triangle,
where Mike's
essentially.
mouse is there. I mean, that would just, yeah, well, wait, is that, no?
That's currently center concrete.
Oh, is that center concrete?
Right.
I mean, yeah, so
Again,
the
if it ever
development-
got redeveloped.
Yeah, yeah, and with the development there, you know, with Mountain Any Manor coming and maybe the eventual Bush Avenue, yeah. We can draw that in and, you know, keep it as a draft as we move forward if that's the wish. We'll do that.
No,
I just offer it.
I think that's a really good point for the same reasons we're expanding in other areas. We're getting some scope creep here.
Nah, it's all right.
Area, yeah.
Okay, we will do that. Great, thanks. So then, I believe next we're going to, I have just some supporting diagrams I wanted to put in here, just to kind of let you know that in the Dale Summit Area Plan, the open space has kind of been, you know, this is the density map that kind of scared a lot of folks. We did bring that back a little bit, but you can see that we have supporting diagrams for street networks, for trails, and for open space. So those, just to kind of keep in mind as we move forward, especially when it comes to updating the official map, updating the PED plan, you know, those areas are all sort of, you know, considered, and greenways are considered. And then of course we saw the like the proposed corridors that go through the Rockview land not long ago. So those are just some things to consider and put them in there for your information. We also have large copies downstairs if you want to come by and look at them.
As you're going, sorry, Lindsay, I don't mean to jump in there. As you're going through this process, this is something we'll just keep kind of reminding. You know, as we're looking at these and thinking about how this community develops in the future, are there places where it makes sense to be looking to assign open space or put new road systems in to start building the grid pattern and tie those into the official map? Those are the things that, you know, just as a reminder, just that community development aspect of this. Not only are you changing the zoning code, but you're also looking at how this is going to develop into the future and what the township envisions and how that, you know, may need to be framed out through our respective plans. So that'll be just something we keep reminding you throughout the course of this process.
And then finally, we have uses. So we included the uses section here. We work to broaden a lot of the uses, so more things can just fall under a category, for example, retail, office. But we worked a lot with the Planning Commission to determine where each use should be permitted. So the black squares are permitted by right, and then we threw some conditional uses in there as well. You can see that, you know, a lot of the uses are similar across the boundaries or across the districts, which, you know, is on purpose. And then we have some of the more intensive uses in the special districts as we have defined them.
And Lindsay does a good job in her memo of explaining the difference between the Euclidean zoning philosophy and the form-based zoning philosophy in terms of really, this isn't supposed to be use-based heavy. It's more the form, but there are still some of those considerations. So she does a good job in there. I just wanted to bring that to attention.
Thanks, Carrie. Yeah, the planning commission seemed to really like that explanation too. And yeah, it is, as Carrie noted, based on form. But you know, if the form of the building fits what is required in the ordinance, then the use in the building really doesn't matter much as long as the form matches. So, which is good for, I think, sustainable development because, that's, or more resiliency, I guess, because you can maybe have a use go out of the building and then the building is still standing, so you can kind of put the use in there as needed. We had a lot of discussions about industrial uses and where they're supposed to be, including like light manufacturing, and should that be in the mixed core? And so those were some of the discussions we had with PC.
Comments? Rich?
No, but Carrie, the memo is a great tool for us. I don't know that we've had that in that condensed a little, but it really hits it and says a lot in a little space, so I appreciated that. But as far as the uses, yeah, that is a big shift from historic, so the only thing I would say, we might be looking at some of these and maybe we want to go to conditional instead of right by use and everything like that, so we have more visibility and everything. And I think the transition period that we've been in for the past year plus has helped us, has shown the value of that we get to ask more probing questions and bring forward and recommendations and everything like that.
Is there anything offhand that strikes you as you would want to see it changed to conditional use now? Looking at the different uses? Rich?
Yes. Am I prepared to get into that? No.
I'm curious, was there something in particular that you had looked at that you had thought, oh, that would be better as conditional use, because I can see that.
Yeah, it's just relative. I mean, I think we all have war stories about different, it's just a matter, are we painting with the big brush or the little brush on some of those? And so now seeing those, I need to digest them a little more to offer some war stories.
Well, once you get through those, note them down and we'll discuss and change them up.
If needed.
Well, I had one. Because we've experienced it before. And it's under civic, and I totally understand why all of those uses, high school, convention center, are conditional because of their impact. I mean, they're all 7-day-a-week events. The uses draw, are impactful 7 days a week into the evening, all of that. So the conditional use makes a lot of sense because it gives us the ability to help mitigate some of the impact. But so do religious assemblies. I mean, churches have now become kind of 7-day-a-week, I mean, just look at C3.
Yeah.
It draws as much traffic and is as impactful as any high school or any other civic organization as that you have listed here. So it just seems to me that everything under that category should be conditional use, or none of it. But certainly to have religious assembly different than those doesn't seem, on the surface initially, doesn't seem to make sense to me because they both operate anymore. When I was little, you went to church on Sunday and that was it. But now, you got wrestling tournament, you got all these things going on at these churches that, That's all I had.
Thanks.
That's a good point. They are civic spaces now, aren't they?
Yeah.
Very good point.
No, this is a great table.
Yeah.
Well, we'll take your comments, make some changes and note them in our log. And we'll be providing you the next packet of information on Monday, which is going to be form standards. And we'll be looking at those at the end of August at a work session. So you'll get all of those.
I think we're also interested in more thought on the special districts in particular. So if you have any comments in terms of maybe how we have outlined what those special districts are and what their uses are, that will be beneficial as well. If there's anything you'd like to see adjusted in that as you process kind of what the vision and why we set those special districts the way that we did.
One of the things I would offer up, and it goes to Rich, not ready to necessarily eat the elephant tonight in terms of uses, is as we go through the form standards for each of these districts, we can take a moment and come back to the uses. If there's something that then pops out as a glaring omission or something that maybe doesn't necessarily fit in the context of the form that you're starting to build through those regulations, we can keep revisiting this. So what I would probably suggest is when we start into those discussions in the work session, we have the uses posted here or something. So it's just a visual reminder of, okay, as we build out these forms, these are the things that are going to be fitting within those forms. So just bear that in mind. And we can do that for each of these respective districts. And it gets to the point that Carrie was referencing with the special districts. I mean, to overgeneralize them at the moment, the Nittany Mall district is height. That really was the context of that district. It allowed a higher height than the mixed neighborhood or mixed core. The Shiloh Road district was about building scale, the size of the buildings, and some thought around, quite honestly, big box. And then Corning, that special district was about the more heavy industrial uses, the things that maybe don't fit within the context of some of these, neighborhoods and mixed uses. The things that have a noise barrier or the things that have an odor or something, there may be an opportunity there, but it also was tied around scale of building. So I think that'll be a good thing to just kind of have there. In general, we didn't hear any real objection. I appreciated the comment about the conditional use, but a lot of this, it's a process. As you walk through it, ideas may come up that you want to go back and revisit. So I think uses is a particular one that we should just have out there as a reminder each time we're going through these.
I agree. And I think that some of the planning commission comments, were about the Shiloh area, is to kind of keep it available for those big box stores. And, there's two sides of that. There's, sure, we could do that, but then again, is there another opportunity maybe across the boundary for those big box stores? Whereas we could, use those bigger pieces of land to do exactly what the ordinance is kind of set to do, is to create, places and not just like one box store on a property. So just some considerations there.
Yeah, that's where that visioning component of this comes in, is, where we were originally with these, the two primary districts, neighborhood and core. Your traditional big box, pick one, does not fit at all. So they would either have to change how they do it or we accommodate. So that's going to be kind of that tug and pull of that discussion, at least how that special district is set up currently. But we'll get into that as we work through the work sessions.
Lots of fun stuff to come still. All right.
You have everything you need.
I do. Thank you so much. It's productive.
All right. So next up is OB2, the PSU ARL rezoning. And our action item tonight is to discuss and then potentially set a public hearing. So who is giving us, is that you again?
That's me, yeah. Tired of my voice
Lindsay?
yet? Nope. All right, so We have in front of you the request to rezone the property in which was just approved through a DRI. So in early 2025, the letter is actually dated January of 2025, Penn State began their process for the DRI, the Development of Regional Impact, which has gone through the process, and on July 27th, the Center Regional Council of Governments General Forum approved the DRI. Because of that evening, that approval and that resolution, council doesn't have to take any more action on the DRI because now that's approved. So now we get to the rezoning request. And you've seen this before, and it's, and we've had the discussion. All of the property that is being requested to change right now is in the University Plan District 14. That zoning district currently prohibits research uses. So the request is to change that zoning district from UPD 14 to Planned Research and Business Park District, which is what the rest of Innovation Park is zoned. So by making this request and changing the zoning, then the zoning would be consistent for the whole ARL campus and Innovation Park. They would all be consistent there. The Planning Commission did see this back in December of 2025, and they made a recommendation for council to ultimately change the zoning in the area to accommodate the expansion of ARL. There is a map that was included in your packet showing the acreage. There is a request for 60 total acres. I know the original letter from Penn State says 62. If you remember, there was some talks about an acre here or an acre there. They've cut that back to just 60 now, so that's how we'd be moving forward. And the land that's outside of the growth boundary, you see number 3, that's a total of 50 acres zoned UPD. Number 2 on your map is within the growth boundary, but zoned UPD. And then the rest of Innovation Park, as you see, is PRD already. So the 50 acres and the 10 acres are what would be considered for rezoning. This is a zoning map change, so it takes, we have to post the property, make adjacent property owners aware, send out public notices. The county planning office and the regional planning office and Center Regional Planning Commission still has to review this, and then we'll ultimately have a public hearing for the determination of the action to rezone the property. We're asking council tonight to consider changing that 60 acres from UPD to PRD and setting that public hearing for October 1st, which would give us enough time to ensure all the process is set in the right order. Everyone sees it, everyone's notified, and then in October you can make that decision.
Okay. Do we have to make a motion to set the public hearing? Okay, all right. Does anyone have any questions for Lindsay prior? Does anyone want to make the motion for the public hearing?
Sure. I move to set a public hearing at the October 1st, 2026 council meeting to consider the rezoning of the 60 acres in Innovation Park from UPD 14 to PRBD.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Hearing is set for October 1st.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. And thank you for a clear presentation.
Yeah, great.
Thanks for making that easy. All right, tonight we have no new business. Next up, we have staff informatives. We have the PML voting delegate information.
Yeah, provided with your agenda, we do this on an annual basis, is you just need to determine who you want as your PML voting delegate.
And who's going to PML this year?
So it's a two-horse race?
Well, we need a primary and an alternate, so it works great. Now, if you've read the memo, they're doing it a little different this year. They're breaking
remote.
the resolution part out and doing it virtually the Friday before.
You've done this before, haven't you?
PML?
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
from when we
voting
became a
delegate,
member.
Right, okay.
Yeah.
So,
There's nothing
if we need a voting delegate and an alternate, I would suggest we consider you for the voting delegate and me for the alternate.
For me.
Work for you guys?
Yep.
Okay. I think we have what we need?
Yep.
Great. That was easy. Council,
easy.
staff, other matters.
Madam Chair, I had one, just need to announce the exec session,
The what?
the executive session.
Oh, yes, I'm so sorry. Boy, it's been an off day. It's the end of the meeting, and I do want to announce tonight that we did have an executive session prior to the meeting tonight to discuss a personnel matter.
I had something,
Please.
if I could. I just want to plant the seed now for further consideration. We heard a lot of feedback during the ARL RGB process that had to do with connecting Innovation Park, with the rest of campus and downtown. And I think we owe that to the other municipalities to follow through with that at the land development plan process. I think we would anyways. But just a reminder, but my point is that we'll be limited to the boundaries of the property that we're talking about. So I would suggest that we think about creative ways that we could partner with Penn State to get meaningful connections made between Innovation Park and campus proper, or who knows, the path to campus or the bike trails. The point is that we may have to put some skin in the game in order to get meaningful and usable connections made to Innovation Park. And I'd like to see us at least explore that opportunity through the land development plan.
That's good feedback. Thank you.
That's all I have.
Anything else? All right. Does anyone want to make a motion?
Motion that we adjourn.
So moved.